Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and the one question that you hear all the time when new operators are released is which one is better. It takes a long time to grind renown in this game, and people want to spend their hard-earned renown on an operator that they think is going to give them the most value, and so that is the question that I wanted to answer today. Go over the strengths and weaknesses, a bit of a review of both Iana and Oryx, so that you have a better understanding of which one is going to better fit your playstyle. And so first and foremost, if I'm being completely honest with you, I think that Iana is significantly better across the board. Now, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy playing as Oryx, and we'll get to him here in a second, but the reason why she is so powerful is that she brings an incredible amount of utility to the offensive team. She essentially is an infinite drone. Not only do you have your normal 2 drones that you can use whenever you want, but in between that, you can also send in your hologram to scout out the objective. As long as the defensive team doesn't do any damage to it, or your team as well, the recharge time on it is incredibly fast. Now, Ubisoft might adjust this in the next couple of weeks because it is on the TTS, but right now, you can constantly relay information to your team, and just that alone makes her, in my opinion, one of the more stronger operators ever introduced into the game in quite some time, especially with the operators that we've been getting recently. This is definitely a breath of fresh air. The great thing about her, though, is that that's really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to her gadget. Her Gemini replicator has an amazing amount of different applications. One of my favorite strategies, and I wish that more people would use this, hopefully this is just because people are getting comfortable with her in the next couple of weeks and months. When more people get a chance to play as this operator and play with her, they'll be more comfortable with this strategy. But basically, you use her Gemini replicator to scout out the objective, but you have a teammate follow directly behind it. That way, when it gets taken out, the player is not only going to have your call out of where that player is, but they're also going to see the shots of a defender, giving them that pinpoint exact location of where they are, so they can hopefully swoop on in and then take them out directly after that. That combo really catches defenders off guard. You can also use this as a bit of misdirection. A lot of players right now will just simply rush the objective with their hologram, which is fine because they're gathering information, which is going to be really valuable, but you can also play her hologram as if you are the real Iana. If you quickly peek a doorway or a window and then duck for cover as soon as you see someone, that player is not going to assume that that is a hologram. Why would a hologram be scared in that situation? And so they're going to assume that that is the actual Iana. And so if all of a sudden you pop out from the right-hand side of that hallway, where normally the hologram was on the left, that is going to catch them by surprise and hopefully give you the advantage that you need. I will admit that it is much more difficult to pull off because getting your gadget into a position that's different from where you are, where they didn't see you transfer from one side of the hallway to the other, can be quite challenging, but when you're able to pull that off, it is incredibly satisfying. Now, that doesn't mean that she's perfect, though, and I would say her biggest weakness is that you are going to want to play her with friends or be in a well-coordinated team. If you're assuming or you're picking up Iana so that you can get a high KD and reach the top of the scoreboard because you're taking everyone out, you can still do that with her weapons, and we'll get to that here in a second, but that is not where her strength lies. She is a utility character. She is second to none when it comes to information gathering, and so you should be constantly making callouts almost throughout the entire round. You may not be getting the kills, but you're the one that is facilitating those moments, and that's why she is so powerful. And so while you can win 1v1 situations, this is not really the operator if you're someone who is trying for that really high KD sort of gameplay. As for her weapons, though, I have fallen in love with the ARX. It took some time to get comfortable with it, but I would say that it is now significantly better that it has a foregrip on it. Whenever I would play as Nomad, I hardly ever used this weapon because I always had a hard time managing its recoil. It had a decent RPM, but its recoil was just a little bit too substantial for me based off of said RPM. Yes, it may do a significant amount of damage, but I just could never really get a handle on it. With Iana, though, I haven't had any such problems. I don't know if this is just simply because I've gotten comfortable with these sort of weapons. Maybe I'm just a better player. I highly doubt that, but I think that increased accuracy with that attachment has significantly made this weapon more effective, and I'm finding it to be a lot of fun to use. As for her G360, though, that's where I run into some complications. I've never really been a fan of this weapon. It's always got a weird horizontal wiggle to the left and the right that I can never seem to lock down. And because of that, even though it has more rounds at its disposal, which is going to be good if you're going against multiple players, I just can never recommend it. And then finally, if all of that wasn't enough, Iana, for some reason, also has access to nades. Nades, as we all know, are one of the most desirable secondary gadgets that we have on offense because of their versatility. You can take out other gadgets, you can use this to obviously take out other players, deal damage, like they're just really strong. And so with all of this great utility, you have this great secondary gadget. What's not to like? In general, though, I think that Iana is an amazing new operator added into Siege. She does require a fair amount of skill and finesse. Her Gemini replicator is going to take time for people to get comfortable with, but I think when they do, and as long as they're playing her as that utility and someone who's just making a lot of callouts, she is going to be an awesome addition to the offensive team. Now, as for Oryx, he's really fun. When you're busting through a wall and you're taking people out, or you jump through a hatch and you get one of the best flanks that you've ever gotten in the game that was never possible before, it is one of the coolest and most satisfying things that you can experience. Like the first time I got a flank through a hatch, it was incredible. But those moments are really far and in between. Now, I will admit that I'm not the best roamer, and so you gotta take this with a grain of salt, but I'm finding that his gadget leaves a lot to be desired. I don't know about you guys, but when they first announced Oryx, I automatically assumed that his primary ability was going to be his charge. Going through a soft wall, catching anyone on the other side by surprise, and then hopefully being able to take advantage of that situation to come out on top. Like, that sounded like his playstyle. That's really not the case whatsoever. One of the worries that when I saw this ability was that it was going to essentially just be like Amaru, where you'd have to go through an extensively long animation to ready your weapon to be able to take out anyone that you did catch by surprise. And sadly, that is the way that it works. For some reason, Ubisoft keeps making these operators that have a lot of speed and agility to move around the map quickly, but then they're not able to actually use that speed and movement to their advantage because they have this huge disadvantage associated with it. And so really when we get down to it, and the reason why you're going to want to play as Oryx is his ability to jump through hatches. That is going to be a game changer. When offense is on the top floor, they've cleared it out, they're watching the staircases for any roamers to flank them, and then all of a sudden Oryx just pops through one of the hatches and now he's in the middle of your team just kind of wreaking havoc. That right there is why he is going to be strong. It's not the fact that he can bust through a wall. Maybe he can use that to run away, or he can use his sprint to kind of move from point A to point B quickly, but it's that ability to just simply hit them from an angle that was never possible before. That is really going to be his main strength. The issue with that, though, just like everything else, is that you have to go through a lengthy animation. The jumping process and lifting your body up is going to take some time, and you also make noise while going through that process. Oryx kind of grunts a little bit, and if anyone's in the vicinity and they're paying attention, they're going to hear you jumping up that hatch, and so that flank is going to be ruined, and they're going to get a free kill because it makes so much noise. And so honestly, I'm not entirely sure how he's going to be impacting the game in the long term. Once again, I am not the best roamer. I'm sure there's going to be people that master his playstyle, that have amazing situational awareness. They know exactly where offense is at all times, and they know when to jump through a hatch at the opportune moments. His ability to charge and sprint around the map quickly to just constantly hit offense from different angles, even if he's making a lot of noise, might mean the difference and might make him one of the better roamers. But right now, I'm just not convinced. To top it all off, I'm finding his weapons to be fairly lackluster. The MP5 without the ACOG really leaves a lot to be desired. A couple of patches ago, they reduced the damage on it to try to make Doc and Rook less viable, but because of that, now that he has access to this weapon, it just feels like you're just kind of throwing marshmallows at players. I'm not kidding when I would rather have the MPX in a lot of situations because I find that weapon to just be a lot more accurate and much more reliable at lining up headshots. And then to top it all off, his ability also does does 10 damage to him every single time that he goes through a wall. Now, I understand why Ubisoft did this. If he could just simply indefinitely charge through every single soft wall in the game, he could open up so many different flanking routes for defense to take advantage of. Like, that would be absurd. Like, there needed to be some downside, and so I get why there is that 10 damage, but it kind of accumulates over everything on top of what we've talked about today and just makes him even more lackluster. And so just overall, it's because of all of these weaknesses for why I'm not really sold on Oryx. On paper, he sounds awesome. He sounds like a very fast mobile operator that can use the terrain and the environment to his advantage, but in reality, that's just not the case. Just like Amara, when she released, I thought that she was going to be amazing, but there's all these restrictions applied to these characters that make them very underwhelming. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm having a lot of fun with this season so far. These two new operators, while they have their problems, I think just in general bring a lot more to the table compared to a lot of the previous operators that we've had in these past seasons, and I think they're going to be a great addition. Let me know what you guys thought about my review, though. Do you like Iana so far? Do you think I'm off base when it comes to Oryx? Do you think that he's really powerful for different reasons? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.